Hey there, this is Taylor Ellwood, and welcome to the Magical Experiments video for tonight. I'm really excited to be here. So, tonight we're going to talk about the role of submission in magic. And this really came about because of a comment that one of the members of the Magical Experiments group made in regards to some experiences that she's having, and she said, as a parallel to this experience, that one of the things she was having to do was really submitting to the actual experience, and not trying to have control of it. And she said, as an aside, that she felt like there was a lot of people who in the magical world didn't really know how to submit, to magic. They didn't know how to let go. They didn't know. They were always focused on controlling and dominating and trying to tell it what to do, but not necessarily actually giving themselves over to the experience. And I I would fully agree. I mean, I, up until a few years ago, had never really tried letting go and letting myself just submit to the magical work, as opposed to just trying to control it. And really, I kind of came to my own understanding and realization around this when I started working with RJ Stewart, because one of the things RJ talked about is how you're really not in control, and how it's important to let go of being in control. Because when you're trying to control something, you're not fully opening yourself up to the experience. And so, as I worked with him, and also as I had certain life experiences occur where my sense of control just completely got blown away, so that I had no real control over a situation, it made me realize that there was a lot of wisdom to that. My own experiences with magic in the last few years has turned from one of trying to control magic to one of working with magic, letting go of the need to be in absolute control, and understanding that instead the experience that I'm having is one where I am simply being present with what it is that I am working with, and I am letting go, and fully going into the flow of that experience with the magical work. Now, that seems a little odd. It's because if you look at Western magic in general, the focus is on control. If we look at, the classic approach to invoking and evoking spirits, it's all about control. It's, like you're going to work with a spirit. Well, hey, you're going to first get these angels to come along and put the smackdown on that demon so that it does what you want it to do, or you're going to control the spirit in this way or that, or you're going to do practical magic to get a specific result, and you're going to be in control the entire time. That's how a lot of Western magic goes, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's the best approach. I found for myself that when I stopped trying to be in control of the magical work, that's when my experiences with magic deepened, where I found that I went into a deeper level of experience because I was giving myself over to the current that I was working with and allowing it to carry me toward where I wanted to go. And it didn't mean that, in this submission didn't mean that I just, laid there passively and just let magic do whatever it wanted to do to me, right? Nothing along those lines. It meant that when I was doing a magical working, I would I would well, what I do now, I do the working, and as I work with those specific energies, as I work with the spirits, whatever else, I give myself over enough to ride that current. And I'll occasionally see it as that I'm steering it along. I'm steering myself along to where I want to go, but I'm not trying to fight it. I'm not trying to make it into something that it isn't. Instead, I am trusting the direction that it's going in, and that it's going to get me where I want to go. And it does. Because instead of trying to be in absolute control of the entire outcome the entire time, I'm allowing myself to really be present with it I'm finding out what it has to offer me. And then I'm steering it along just a little bit. I'm paddling, I'm paddling the oar, and I'm getting to where I want to go. I kind of liken it to whitewater rafting, because, if you've ever whitewater rafted, you know that you're not really in control. You're riding a boat in a current, and if you're not careful, you could get flipped over. And you have to know how to ride that current, and at the same time you have to know when to paddle, and recognize that even when you're paddling, you don't have full control, but that what you're doing is you're using the paddling to get you in the direction you want to go. That's the reality of that kind of experience. And this can be a very humbling experience for people who practice magic, because all of a sudden, when you realize you don't always have control, that sometimes you do have to let go and fully be present with the situation in a way that isn't necessarily comfortable, but calls on you to go deeper, it can also be liberating. I've been doing the sphere of artwork for the last couple of years, and this is probably a prime example of that, because when I'm doing the sphere of artwork, I'm working with the archangels, I'm calling the directions, I'm working with the planetary and elemental energies, and I'm mediating them. And when you mediate a spiritual energy, you're allowing that energy to work through you. And as it works through you, it's going to work the way that it wants to work. You're not going to necessarily be in control of that. You're giving yourself over. You're becoming, in a sense, a spiritual medium of sorts, with this work. And as you do that, it requires you to let go of your ego and your sense of control, and instead really work with those forces. So when I'm doing the sphere of art and I'm calling forth to these archangels and I'm allowing that energy to go through me, I'm very much coming at it from a place where I'm humbling myself before what it is that I'm working with. And it doesn't mean that I'm necessarily going, oh, I worship you or anything like that. That's not the thing of it. It's just that I'm acknowledging that, look, I'm not necessarily in control of this situation. I don't need to be in control of this situation. I can be present with this, and I can work with it in a way that's going to allow me to go deeper into this work. And what I found is that when I've done this work this way, I have actually found that it's led to a much better understanding of the forces that I'm working with. A good way I would put it is that a couple months ago, I was working with the planetary energies of Neptune. Now, if you ever worked with the planetary energies of Neptune, you're gonna know that it's a very turbulent energy. It's not something you mess around with lightly. And I had actually worked with this planetary energy a few years ago, and that's when everything blew up in my face. Like, I tried to work with it, I tried to control it, and it was like, no, you're not going to do that. You're not going to control me at all. And if anything, everything I tried to do just absolutely went wrong. Well, this time around, when I worked with it, I didn't try to control it. Instead, I just simply was present with it, and I let it work its way through me. And there were times where I would, paddle along and kind of make sure that I was going in the direction that I wanted to go in. But at the same time, I didn't let it overwhelm me. I knew how to hold space with that energy and work with it, but I also didn't feel like I had to control it. Instead, I could simply hold space with it and be with it and let it work with me in such a way that it would allow me to mediate the experience of that particular energy and work it into my life and allow me to direct it just enough to go where I wanted to go. And at the same time, it taught me even further this appreciation of the fact that there is a necessary equivalent exchange between form and power. Because really, in magical work, what we're dealing with is we're exchanging form for power, or we're exchanging power for form. What do I mean by that? When you are trying to manifest a result, where are you manifesting it from? You're manifesting it from the realm of possibilities, of probabilities, and you're transforming it into a specific outcome. Well, in the realm of possibilities, you have infinite power, the power to be anything and yet nothing. Working with that kind of power, you have to learn at some point how to exchange it for form. And when you exchange power for form, what happens is that you're giving that power form, materialization, and you're giving away some of the power in the process in order for it to become a concrete reality. With material realm, we have less probabilities available to us, but we're able to do things with form that we wouldn't be able to do otherwise. Ironically enough, the world of form is the world that we have control over. I mean, perfect example, I can pick up this pen, I can do things with it, I have control of the pen. That's the world of form. And so it's in the material world that we most notably have control. Not complete control. I mean, the reality at the end of the day is, you step out that door, you are taking a risk, as we do any time. And I think we're all getting a lesson in how little control we have right now, in a very real sense, what with the coronavirus going on right now. But nonetheless, we have more control than if we were to go into the realm of pure entropy or power, where you can be anything and yet you are nothing. Because in that realm, you have infinite power, but you have no form, no materialization. So you don't really have a lot of control over that, because it's just power. And it's a fascinating thing when you consider this in relationship to this concept of submitting to magic, because really what you're doing is you're learning to give yourself over to this realm of power, this realm of infinite probabilities and possibilities. And from it, you find your way to the possibility that you want to manifest, and you turn it into form. You turn it into something that's a materialization, something that you can actually do something with. And from there, you manifest your results. But learning to give ourselves over to what we're working with, to submitting first, in order to find control, is something that is foreign to a lot of magicians, because the idea is really, well, look, I'm going to do magic. I'm going to command these spirits to do whatever I want, or I'm going to create a sigil and it's going to manifest these things, and I'm in control. I've got the power. I'm doing what it is that I'm doing. But do you really? This is something to consider carefully. If you really do have that control, would you even be doing magic in the first place? Why is it that we're doing magic? We're doing magic in one sense to have a sense of control in our lives, right? We're doing it in order to get a result. Nothing wrong with admitting that. Let's just be honest about it. But here's the thing. If we understand that, then perhaps what we can also appreciate is the value of, when we're doing that initial work, letting go, fully immersing ourselves in what it is that we're trying to work with, and opening ourselves up to it in a way that allows us to truly experience it and determine from there what we really want to do, what we really want to accomplish. I think in some ways that I have learned how to find the most control in a situation by learning how to submit to that situation and working with the situation as it seems to be, and discovering from there the probabilities and possibilities that are going to best allow me to manifest the desired result that I want to accomplish. It requires a level of faith and a means and a willingness to let go of that ego and fully immerse yourself in the experience, so that you can discover what it is that you can learn from it that's going to help you get where you want to go and manifest the desired result that you're going for. Another way that I might liken this is that right now I'm learning some new moving meditation. I'm learning the basic steps of Bagua, and also God's playing in the clouds, Qigong. I'm doing these movements, and as I'm doing them, I'm paying close attention to how my body responds, and I'm paying close attention to the chi as it's rising and it's working through me. I'm not trying to control the chi. I'm aware of it. I'm working with it, but I'm not trying to control it. And here's why. If I were to try and control the chi that I was working with, in this case, I'm working with the Earth and Stellar Cosmos chi as well as my own chi. If I was to try and control that, I wouldn't get very far with it. But I'm finding that when I allow myself to go and I do a step, a straight line step for Bagua, and I'm just stepping into that, and I'm allowing my energy to just sink into the ground and then rise back up, I'm opening myself to it. I'm letting it come in as much as it wants to and as much as I'm able to handle it. And then as I continue to work with it, I'm learning how to hold space with that chi. And then I'm learning how to move it the way that I want to move it. Initially, I don't have control. I'm having to let it just simply work through me. But as I continue to work with it and hold space with it, that's when I start to be able to direct it and work with it in the way that I want to work with it. It's an act of submission that nonetheless allows you to actually come to a place of consensual agreement about what is going to happen next. And this is what occurs with magic when we go to a level where we no longer need to try and have a top-down approach to magic, where we instead take on a consensual approach with what it is that we're working with. Now, some magicians will look at this video and say, I would never do that. That's crazy. And he's crazy for trying it. And my response to that would be, I'm not crazy for trying it. I've been doing this for the last few years and it's worked rather well. I found that if anything, it's deepened my appreciation and understanding of magic. It's deepened my connection with the spirits. It's deepened my overall work. And the reason why is because in letting go of that need to have a top-down approach to magic, what I'm also letting go of is a need to try and have so much control that I'm blocking out what the experience could actually teach me. When we take a consensual approach to magic, what ends up happening is we open ourselves to things that we would otherwise block out. We start learning things that we would otherwise ignore. For me, this approach of submission has really been an experiential one, because what I've done is I've opened myself up to the experience of magic working through me and with me. I've learned to pay closer attention to the experiences themselves. So that, as an example, instead of with the spirit working with it and saying, all right, spirit, I want you to show up in this form and I want you to talk to me in my language, I've said, hey, spirit, I'd really like to work with you today. And I want to work with you on your level and let you show up in the way that you feel is best. And when I've done that and I've let the spirit show up in the way that it's wanted to show up, that communication hasn't always been in a form that I would necessarily recognize or is obvious, but it has nonetheless been an experiential occurrence where it's communicated with me. And as I've paid close attention to those experiences, I've been able to shift and adapt to it, and from that form a union with that spirit that has allowed me to go deeper with it and take on its power and work with it in order to accomplish the ends that I want to achieve. And with no blowback. Have you ever noticed that with the systems of control that a lot of occultists have, that, it can blow back on them? Well, why is that? I'll tell you why that is. Because when you're so focused on trying to control something, what you're doing is you are creating a top-down system with you on top and whatever it is on the bottom. Well, whatever it is on the bottom is going to resent you if that's not what it wants, right? It's not consensual. It's not an agreement. It's I'm forcing you to do this. Well, last I checked, nobody wants to be forced into anything. So if we know that we ourselves don't want to be forced into something, why would we do that with the magical work that we do? Why would we try and force things? And I'll tell you something, when you force something, when you try to force it, it creates complications. This is true when you're doing internal energy arts with chi. Um, if you try to force the chi, it'll create blockages. It's true when you're working with spirits, where there's the inevitable blowback. If you've ever tried to summon a spirit and force it to do something and it's gotten out of control, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I've never had that happen, by the way. Even in the years where I was taking more of a control approach, even then, I still wasn't trying to. I was always trying to do it from a place of respect. So I've never really had that blowback. But I'll tell you that I've found that my work with the spirits has significantly deepened and improved because I've let go of any remote semblance of needing to control how to work with that spirit. Instead, I really have come at it from a place of consensual choice and awareness where I have chosen to let go of the need to be in control, chosen to be present, and then from there adjusted things because there an agreement has been arrived at and we've come together to achieve what we wanted to do. And that's really what it boils down to with magic. Can you go to that next level where you learn to let go of the need to be in control, the systems and structures that create that kind of perspective, and instead truly open yourselves up to the experience and let it speak through you, mediate it through you, and let it speak you as well. What you'll find when you do that is eventually you also end up speaking it and speaking through it, and you merge and you become something else altogether. And really, magic as an act of transformation isn't just about imposing a desired result upon reality. It is about a change in identity. It is about a change in who and what you are. And if you do not understand that about magic, you will never really get it. You might be able to pull off some successful spells or whatever else, but it's not the same thing as learning to truly work with it, truly let yourself go, and change your identity in the process to become something wholly new, become something else altogether. That is the power of learning to let go of control and achieve something else. All right, thanks for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Feel free to comment and have a good evening. See you next week.